So we have discussed the concept of family. What do we mean by family? What is the function of a family? What are the features of family? What is the structure of a family? And how these structures, these functions are undergoing a change. What are the factors which are bringing about change? Now, another associated concept is the concept of household. Many times, family and household, they're used interchangeably, but they have a different meaning. And our syllabus also specifically mentions household. And also many times we have got these questions. What is the difference between a family and a household? That is the reason we need to understand what is household. Many of these, when you're trying to collect information about the demography, generally they will try to find out information related to a household. Why do they do that? Why they try to find out these things? So we'll try to understand these dimensions. What is household? And then after that, we'll understand what is marriage. Family, household, marriage, they're the first subtopic of our syllabus. Systems of kinship. Now, what is a household? Household has been defined as a group of people who are sharing a home or a living space. They can aggregate or share income. They can pool in their resources. Apart from that, they might be regularly taking meals together. So household is a group of people who are staying together, who are aggregating their income, and they might be taking meals together. Now, how is household different from a family then? In a family also, there are certain people who might be staying together. They might be pooling in their resources. They might be taking meals together. So how a household and family are different? Now, household is primarily a dwelling unit, a residential unit. While a family, it is more of a kinship unit, social unit which is based on kinship ties. One family can have multiple households. One household can have multiple families. I'll give you an example. See, when I say household, that means under one roof, people are staying together. Under one roof, there can be multiple families. Different families, because maybe they do not have sufficient finances. Because of these compulsions, they're all staying together in one house. In one room, one family is staying, one nuclear family, another room, another nuclear family is staying. So it's a dwelling unit. Multiple families under one roof. Also, one family can have multiple households. Husband, wife, they're both working, but they're working in different geographies. Maybe the husband is working in the state capital. Let's say he's working in Bangalore, while the wife is working in Mysore. But every day they cannot travel. So they are staying differently. The husband is staying in Bangalore. He has his own household. The wife is staying in Mysore. She has her own household. Maybe they meet once a week during the weekends. But they're creating two different households. One family, but two different households. So same family can have different households. Different family can also have same households. Also, you have institutional households. Certain institutions can form households. For example, students who are staying in a hostel, they can form a household. They can pool in their resources, create mess. In that mess, they can hire a cook who serves them food. They're pooling their resources. They're having meals together and they're staying under one common roof. Sometimes you might also have houseless households. For example, those people who are staying in the pavements, they're all staying together. They might also sometimes pool in their resources, contribute whatever basic resource they have, and they might also have meals together. So this is an example of a houseless household, those who are staying in the pavements. So a family is a different unit. Family is on the basis of kinship. But household can be due to multiple factors. Students staying together can be pavement dwellers, it can be. Now, this concept of household and family, it was not properly understood at some point of time. If you look at the older thinkers, they use them interchangeably. They thought that these two concepts are coterminous. You can use them interchangeably. But with urbanization and industrialization, we are realizing the difference between these terms. Households are becoming more widespread because of the process of urbanization and industrialization. How households are becoming more prominent? One major factor is individualism. Family requires you to be collectivistic. You have to adhere to the norms, regulations within the family. There are certain rules, regulations. But this collectivism, it is on the decline. We are becoming more and more individual. People realize that, people feel that family might not play a very significant role in their life. It does not have much to offer. Multiple institutions, specialized institutions have come up, which have taken over the role of family. So in that scenario, what is the whole point of being within a family? So you are becoming more and more individualistic. And you move away. You move out of your nest from your family. And you create your own household. So one of the reasons why you have a predominance of households is there is a move towards individualism. Apart from that, welfare state has become quite predominant in most of the industrial economies. Now, welfare state takes care of the needs of people. It takes care of the needs of the elderly, of the aged. So in such a scenario, elderly are also not dependent on the younger ones because the state is taking care of them. So that requirement, the requirement of the elderly, can now be fulfilled by someone else. So the younger generation did not stay with them. So they can move out, they can create their own household. Apart from that, the industrial economy requires specialization. It requires some specialized skills. And these skills can be obtained through formal education. So people have to move out of their household. Let's say after standard 12, a lot of people in India, they move out. They move out to some new colleges, they study in some new colleges. So when they're studying in a college, they might be within an institution, they might be staying in hostels, or those students along with their friends, they can form a group and they can take a house and rent. So they have created a household here. 5, 6 people, they're staying together, they're not related, they don't have any blood relationship, but they have some common purpose. So they're sharing their resources, they're staying under one roof, and they might be having meals together. So they are forming a household. So the demands of the economy, the demands of the industrial economy also leads to formation of household. Apart from that, employment. For employment, you have to move from one place to another. Not necessarily wherever you are staying right now with your extended family. You will get a job there. You might have to move. That also necessitates formation of households. Apart from that, cohabitation with partners, it has also become quite prevalent, especially in the Western countries. In India also it is happening. So the different kind of social attitudes, norms that were there towards cohabitation, they have also been relaxed over a period of time. So people are choosing their partners on the basis of personal compatibility and they are moving in with them. Also leads to formation of households. In low-income countries, there can be some specific reasons why households can form. For example, the cost of living might be very high. If the cost of living is very high, some families can come together and share the same space. So it will reduce the financial burden on them. Sometimes space might be a constraint. Certain cities might have grown at a very fast rate. They might have provided different economic opportunities, but the housing policies might not have evolved with equal pace. That means the city might not have been able to create similar number of accommodation. So growth of city has happened when it comes to economic opportunities, but the houses, the settlements, the accommodation facilities, they have not grown at an equal pace. As a result of which, there is a space constraint. So in that case also, multiple families can come together or there can also be formation of different kind of households. Sometimes households are also for the purpose of convenience. For example, there is a factory. So you want to stay near the factory. Or some people can decide that every day traveling might be difficult. Maybe, let's say my family is, I have purchased a house, my family is staying with me in that house, but the new posting that I have got, it is 80 kilometers away. Every day traveling might be difficult. Every day traveling 160 kilometers might be difficult. So what I can do is, I can take up a rented accommodation near the place where I'm working, and from there I will commute every day, and during the weekends maybe I will move to the place where my family is settled. This is generally the case with many of the government employees, many of these bank employees, insurance company employees, or these ones. So their postings keep on changing every 3 years, 4 years. They will have some term, and it keeps on changing. So they keep on doing that. Their family will be staying somewhere because the children, because maybe they have purchased the house over there, or maybe the children are studying in a school nearby, and they will be staying in some rented accommodation near their workplace. So convenience can also be another factor. So all these are major factors for formation of households in the low-income countries. Now, some more perspectives about households. Anthony Giddens says that at present, what we observe is serial monogamy. Monogamy means one marriage. That means you are having one partner, husband and a wife. You are not having multiple partners. But there is serial monogamy. That means a husband is married to a wife, to a female. She is his wife, but they might have a divorce. And again, that husband might marry someone else. The wife might also marry someone else. So serial monogamy. At any point of time, there is monogamy, but there can be multiple monogamies one after the other because there is divorce, marriage, breakdowns. So he's saying this is something which is becoming more and more prevalent. Now, if this is becoming more prevalent, that means family and household. Initially, they were said to be same, but now they are getting divided. Now you're able to understand the difference between the family and the household. Under the same roof, the members keep on changing. X and Y might be married together, but after some point of time, they might have a marital breakdown. There's a divorce. Y might be replaced with Z. But yes, now also it is monogamy. At any point of time, you have only one spouse, one partner, but the partners might keep on changing. The stay of members in this kind of household is transitive. It is not permanent. It is not the same. This way, he tries to find out the difference between the family and household. Now, occupation compulsions can also be another reason why households become more predominant. Husband is working somewhere, wife is working somewhere. They're working in different geographies, and they cannot travel every day. So that is the reason they might be staying away. But only during weekends or once in a month, twice in a month, they can come together and be together. So this kind of thing is also leading to prevalence of household, and these kind of families are sometimes called as weekend families. These kind of marriages are sometimes called as weekend marriages. Another very important dimension of household is it can be studied as a microeconomic unit. You have to study the internal division of labor, how the labor among the members of the household is divided, and we'll come to that in a while. But this is a very important area of study, how people are bargaining for the different kind of roles, how each of them are contributing to the activity of the household in different ways. Feminists, they say that a household is a den of unequal sexual division of labor. There is sexual division of labor, and then this division of labor is unequal. A.M. Shah, he says that families are extended nuclear joint, but household can be simple or complex. And households keep on changing. They're also quite dynamic in nature. Now, when it comes to household, we will try to understand two things here. How the finances within the household, they are divided. How different allocations are made within the household. And we'll also try to understand how the work within a household is divided. Now, the study of household allocations, one of the most comprehensive study of household allocations, has been made by John Pyle. And he has basically tried to find out the different income sharing models which are prevalent among the households. This helps us understand the dynamics that exist within these households. Now, he says in certain households, all the members, earning members of the household, they will pool in their resources and they will take decisions in joint. So these kind of households are referred to as the whole wage household. So everyone is pooling their contribution, their resource, and they will take joint decisions. But in some households, it might not be the case. They are not pooling the resources, so they will remain independent and they will take their decisions on their own. So those kind of households are called independent management. You are not staying together, but you are not pooling resources. You are doing your things yourself. You are deciding for yourself. Then there are some households which are controlled by the male members. They will all pool in the resources, but it is finally the male members who are going to take the decision. But yes, there are some exceptions also. There can be some households in which all the resources is pooled together, but the final decision is taken by the females. So these instances, these examples are also there. So basically, this tells us how the resources are pooled and who is the one who is taking decision, who is playing the predominant role when it comes to decision making. Another important way by which you can understand household is by understanding how the work within the household is divided, it is distributed. How there is this economic division of labor within household. And this economic division of labor means how an entire task is broken down into smaller parts and who is going to work, who is going to do what kind of activity. This division of labor can be implicit, it can be explicit. So what you are trying to do here is you are deploying the household members along different domains of employment. So how this thing is divided, what kind of work is carried out by different members. Now if you look at any household, there will be basically three kinds of employment. One is those who are participating in the market economy, those who are participating in market-based production. So some people are employed outside, or some people might be self-employed. So that kind of employment is market-based production. So some members of household are doing this. For example, there might be a household in which some people, let's say two people, they're working in the railways or in the postal department. So they are having some employment from outside. Then there will be some members who will be engaged in domestic production. For example, that particular household might have a small farm or it might have a small kitchen garden. So some of them might be involved in basic farming or gardening activities, okay, which is also contributing to the family's pooled resources. And then there will be some people who are employed for domestic consumption. For example, some of the people in the household might be carrying out the cooking activities or cleaning the dishes or cleaning the house, those kind of activities. So that is a domestic consumption activity. You are helping in the consumption process. So if you look at all the household members, this is primarily the roles that they take up. Some of them are employed, they might even be self-employed. Some of them are producing something domestically, and some of them are helping in the consumption process. Now, what kind of deployment will be there for an individual will depend on his age, it will depend on the life cycle, and sometimes it might also depend on the economic environment, what kind of economic environment you have. And how this deployment will be, who is going to handle what, can be decided by one individual or it can be decided collectively. So, household work strategy helps us understand how this division of labor takes place. And remember that the study is by Ray Paul. Now, another dimension Amartya Sen talks about is that household is both a cooperative unit, it is also a conflict unit. There is cooperation within a household. And because of this cooperation, the total amount of resources that you have, the total amount of availability, things that you have at your disposal, it increases. But sometimes there can also be conflict within the members of the household. It divides the total availability. So this is again another perspective given by Amartya Sen. So this is about household. Understand what is household. Understand how a household and a family are different. This is very important. Family, you have these kinship ties. Household, kinship ties not required. Keep this in mind that five of you, maybe you are preparing for civil services examination, you are staying with some friends of yours who are also preparing for civil services. You are forming a household, you are not forming a family. So people who are staying in a PG, they might form a household. So keep this in mind, how a household and a family, they are different. And this is very important because this is how they will ask you questions. Also understand how household is coming into being, what is the reason household comes into being, what is the reason for formation of household, especially in modernized economies, urbanized economies, and what is the reason for formation of household in third world economies or the low income economies. Also understand how division of labor, how resources are pooled, shared among the members. So this is about household. Another very important concept, associated concept, is the concept of marriage. We have understood family, we have understood household. The last part of this subtopic is marriage. What do you understand by marriage? What is the specific role of marriage? What happens after marriage? What are the different types of marriage? And how this institution of marriage is also undergoing certain change. This is what we are going to cover. Now, when I say marriage, what do you mean by this? Now, different sociologists have tried to understand it. They have tried to define marriage. But again, you have multiple interpretations. So marriage can be defined in different ways. But yes, we have found some common ground. So what do the sociologists say? They say that when sexuality, the sexual relationships between two individuals is given social recognition, it is marriage. Marriage is nothing but the union between a man and a woman such that the children born to the woman are recognized as legitimate offsprings of both the partners. So basically, what is marriage doing here? Marriage is giving legitimacy to the offsprings. Malinowski, he says that marriage is a contract for the production and maintenance of children. It is one of the most legitimate ways, socially recognized arrangement, by which you are establishing the family. One of the most socially recognized legitimate manner in which you establish a family. But when one is entering into this institution of marriage, you are also gaining some rights. Also, you have to fulfill certain obligations. So some rights are conferred on you, and also there are certain obligations on your part. So the institution, the mechanism by which social recognition is given to sexual relations between an individual, that is marriage. The children born out of a woman, born to a woman, that children is given a legitimate status. That institution is marriage. This is the traditional definition. Now, with marriage, there are certain rights, there are certain obligations. What are some of these specific rights? One of the thinker, Edmund Leach, he tries to identify what are some of these specific rights. He says that marriage, it can infer certain rights, but he also says one thing. He alerts the reader that it does not always provide all these rights. It can accomplish these rights, but not always. Keep this in mind. So he's saying that because of marriage, the legal father of a woman's children is established. The legal mother of a man's children is established. Who is the legal father? Who is the legal mother? So that is something which is established. Apart from that, it gives either or both the spouses monopoly in the sexuality of other. That means an individual has the right now to seek sexual gratification. Right to seek. Seek is the term here. You cannot force someone, but you can seek sexual gratification, and you have the monopoly here. The husband has the monopoly to seek sexual gratification from the wife. The wife has the monopoly. Only she can seek sexual gratification from the husband through the institution of marriage. So it gives each or both the spouses the right to the labor of one another. Wherever you're working, you're getting some money out of it, some wages out of it. Now you have the right to seek a part of that earnings. It also gives the right to each other's property. That is also there. Apart from that, you can establish a joint fund property, you can partner in that process, and this fund is basically for the benefit of your children. So basically both of you are bringing up your children. Apart from that, it establishes a relationship of affinity between the spouses and the relatives. You are creating another institution now, and this institution has a affinal basis, it has an emotional basis. So you are forming a family unit, a kinship unit. So marriage accomplishes all these things. It provides you certain rights, certain obligations, but we need to be careful that this need not to be the case all the time. That is the reason. Edmund Leach is also saying that since there is a lot of variations when it comes to this institution of marriage, there is a lot of diversity. So if you try to find a universal definition, your attempt will be in vain. Universal definition, it is very difficult to find. So keep this in mind. Through the institution of marriage, you are basically establishing the legal father, mother of a child. You are establishing monopoly over the sexuality of one another. You are giving right to the labor of each other, right over others' properties provided. There can be partnership in bringing up the children, and you are also establishing certain relations with the spouse, with the relatives of the spouse. For example, husband and wife are getting married. A male and a female are getting married. So they are becoming husband and wife. Now husband has some relationship with the spouse, and he also has some relationship with the spouse relatives, with the wife's relatives. Similarly, wife will have some relations with the husband's relative. So you are now creating those kinship groups as well. So marriage accomplishes all these things. Also, with marriage, one more thing happens. Marriage gives you a new status. It can give you some new privileges, and you already know that it gives you certain obligations. Marriage also ensures recognition by others. So you are getting a new status now. You are single, now you are married. A new privilege can also be there, new obligations are there. And that is also the reason why people try to publicize and dramatize marriage. You're basically telling to others that you are having a new status now. That is also the reason why you have so many ceremonies, rituals around marriage. See, if two people are getting married, it could have been a personal thing. But your status is changing now. Your privileges are changing now. You have to inform it to others. So that is also the reason why there are elaborate ceremonies around marriage. You invite people, you give them wedding cards. Okay, I'm getting married to so-and-so person. You invite them to your reception, and they are also part of it. So that is the reason why you publicize and dramatize this particular incident. So rituals are there to publicize and dramatize the new change in status. Now, when it comes to marriage, there are different types of marriage. In different societies, you will have different type of marriage. Within the society also, there can be various type of marriage. So for understanding this institution, we will look at all these different variations in marriages. Now, first thing, endogamy and exogamy. What do we mean by this? Endogamy and exogamy, they basically refers to the rules which govern marriages. For example, in case of India, there is this caste system. Now, there is the prevalence of caste endogamy. Caste endogamy. That means you have to marry within the same caste. So these are the rules which are governing marriage. You cannot marry outside your caste. That, as per the tradition, as per our laws, you can marry within the caste, outside the caste, everything. There's no such compulsion. But the traditional rules will say that you have to marry within your same caste. Now, there are rules for exogamy as well. For example, in some scenario, a person is considered to be, a female might be considered to be the daughter of the village. So no one from the village should be marrying this person. So she has to find a spouse from outside the village. So that is called village exogamy. There is also prevalence of gotra exogamy. You cannot marry within the same gotra. That also exists. Gotra means cow pen. That is the actual meaning of the term. The place where the cow pen for the entire community was kept together. So endogamy, exogamy, they are the different kind of rules which are governing marriage. Endogamy means you have to marry within that particular group. Exogamy means you have to marry outside. Another example of exogamy is Sapinda exogamy. Now, you cannot marry within your common parentage. So that is called Sapinda exogamy. So you are not marrying your cousins. Indirectly, you are saying that. So you're not marrying your cousins. So there is Sapinda exogamy. So you're not marrying within the same common parentage. Now, on the basis of marital choice, again, marriages can fail. How you are choosing your partner. If you are choosing on your own on the basis of individual compatibility, love marriages can be as a consequence of individual compatibility. But in case of India, arranged marriages are also there. Arranged marriages, the parents, they are the parents or the elderly, the seniors, they are the ones who are deciding your partner on your behalf. So on who is basically deciding, who's taking this call, whether you should marry yourself, whether you should choose your own partner, or whether your parents are going to choose your own partner. On that basis also, there can be arranged marriages or there can be love marriages, both ways. Another way by which you can classify marriages, whether it is whether there is prevalence of monogamy or whether there is prevalence of polygamy. Now, what do we mean by monogamy? You are having only one partner. Polygamy, you are having multiple spouses. So polygamy might have been prevalent before, but now there is a gradual shift towards monogamy. Now, even among some communities, polygamy still exists. For example, among Muslims, the Muslim personal law permits polygamy. You can have multiple spouses. A male can have multiple spouses. But there is a gradual shift towards monogamy. In some states, some countries, there is only monogamy as per the law. And when we say polygamy, polygamy also can refer to two things. It can be polyandry. It can be polygyny. Polyandry means a female has multiple husbands, multiple spouses. Polygyny means a male has multiple wives. So polygamy can refer to both. Polygyny is prevalent among Muslims. Polyandry is also prevalent among certain communities, certain tribal groups. It exists now also. For example, in Himachal, there's a tribe Kini. Among them, polyandry is prevalent. Also, there are some tribals, there's some communities in Bhutan, the Bhutias. Among them, polyandry is prevalent. Now, another way we can classify marriages is on the basis of the rules of residence. Now, when a male and a female, they're getting married, after the marriage, where they are residing, that also decides the type of marriage. For example, if the bride shifts to the groom's place, then it is a patrilocal setup. If the groom shifts to the bride's place, it is matrilocal. And if both of them are moving to a new place of residence, it is new local. In case of India, it is primarily patrilocal. In some countries, it might be primarily new local, especially the Western countries. But now we are also moving towards a new local setup. Now, another way you can classify marriage, whether the marriage is conducted as per the rituals or whether the marriage is conducted as per the laws of the state. Now, different societies will have different rituals for carrying out a marriage, for conducting a marriage. But at the same time, the state might also create some laws for marriage. So some people might use these legal mechanisms to get married. For example, in case of India, we have the Special Marriages Act. Now, these laws are very good when it comes to bringing about reforms in the society. They're aiming towards bringing about social reform. That is the reason. What is the whole purpose of Special Marriage Act? It tries to promote marriages across religion, across caste. So these religious identities, caste identities should become less significant over a period of time. So civil marriage refers to the marriages which are conducted with the help of these laws, legislations. Different states will have their own laws. We also have our own laws. Now, if marriages are conducted as per the ritual practices, which can be on the basis of religion. So that is ritualistic marriage. Another way we can classify marriages in terms of anuloma and pratiloma. Now, anuloma refers to hypergamy. Pratiloma refers to hypogamy. Hypergamy refers to the marital alliance between a male and a female, and the male has a higher social status, while the female has a lower status. So, hypergamy, anuloma refers to that. Pratiloma is reverse. Here, the female has a higher status, and the male has a lower status. Anuloma or hypergamy, that is quite prevalent. But there are instances in which hypogamy is also there. But one thing to keep in mind, whenever there is hypergamy, it can also lead to prevalence of dowry. Because now you are trading the higher status of the male for the dowry, exchange of dowry. So, anuloma and pratiloma, again, this way you can classify marriages. Preferential marriages also happen. Now, what do we mean by preferential marriages? Here we can include cousin marriage or levirate surrogate. These are special arrangements. Levirate, surrogate. Now, what is levirate? Levirate means a female marries the husband's younger brother in case there is the death of the husband and they do not have any son or any child who could have continued the family line. So those kind of marriages are called levirate. Surrogate is that marriage in which the male marries the wife's younger sister after the death of his wife. So in case of levirate, the female marries the deceased husband's younger brother. In case of surrogate, the husband marries the deceased wife's younger sister. Also, there can be cousin marriage between cousins as well. For example, it is prevalent among Muslims and also among Hindus in southern part of India. So preferential marriages, it refers to those marriages which might not follow those norms that has been set out for marriages. It can go against these norms, but it might be fulfilling certain purposes. Now, remarriage. What is remarriage? There has been a marital breakdown, or a particular person has lost his or her spouse. So, in that case, you are getting remarried. In case of India, remarriage was considered a taboo at some point of time. Over a period of time, these kind of social notions has gradually changed. And in Western countries, the divorce rates are quite high. So, remarriage is very, very common in Western countries. For example, in a country like US, the divorce rate will be somewhere around 35%. So, remarriage is very common over there. But in case of India, it is still not very common. But yes, over a period of time, the acceptance to remarriages has also increased significantly. Also, there can be some community-specific rules for marriage. As I told you, there is a lot of diversity when it comes to the institution of marriage. There can be some places where marriages are preceded by kidnapping. So first there is a kidnapping and it leads to marriage. Some of the Central Asian countries, they have these kind of things. Sometimes elopement happens, then marriages happen. So different rules, regulations will be there at different parts of the world. Also, among Hindus, for example, there are different kinds of marriage. Pisach marriage, Gandharva marriage, different kinds of marriages do exist. So community also might have different rules. According to that, you can have different kinds of marriages. Also, there are different taboos associated with marriage. For example, a marriage between close blood relations should not be there. This is one of the common taboo that is prevalent in northern part of India, but not necessarily it is prevalent everywhere. It is not universal, but because in southern India you have marriages within the family itself. Sometimes marriages can also be for a particular convenience. For example, in case of US, sometimes people get married just to get the visa. So for deriving certain benefits also, there can be marriages. So these are different types of marriages that we see around us. Basically, these, if you look at these types, it helps us understand the diversity that exists in marriage. It also helps us understand the structure of the institution of marriage. Now, what we will do is, we'll see what are some of the changes in the institution of marriage. And in fact, we'll look at some of the contemporary trends, but we will look at it specifically in the last part of our discussion. One of the subtopic under these section, systems of kinship, is contemporary trends. There we will be discussing some numbers, some recent studies. But here we'll just go through an overview. What are the basic changes that are taking place in the institution of marriage? Now, there has been a gradual change in the form of marriage. At some point of time, polygamy was quite prevalent. But now there is a gradual shift towards monogamy. Even among Muslims, there is a gradual shift towards monogamy. In different countries, they have different rules regulation. For example, only if the first wife, the present wife, gives it in writing that she is okay with her husband marrying someone else, the marriage will be solemnized. So those kind of conditions have also come up even among Muslim communities. So there is a gradual shift from polygamy towards monogamy. Apart from that, as Young and Wilmot have found out, the relations in marriage, they're becoming symmetrical. At some point of time, it was symmetrical when men and women both are working in the farm. But with the advent of industrialization, men started working long hours in the industries and they started to spend the leisure time outside. So the relation became asymmetrical. But with advent of technology, with invention of household appliances, with improvement in the condition of work, with increasing work hours, with increasing incomes, these things are also changing. So there is gradual move towards symmetrical relationship within the marriage. The age at marriage, it has also increased over a period of time. So the instances of child marriage, that has also gone down. So now men and women both are getting married after a certain age. Same-sex marriage, it is also now more acceptable. Different studies point to the fact that previously also there used to be same-sex marriage, but they might not have got the social sanction that they have right now. It is gradually increasing. It is not just about social sanction. Legal sanction of same-sex marriage is also happening. Multiple countries world over are giving legal status to same-sex marriage. In case of India, we had some discriminatory laws. Indian Penal Code 377, it prevented what they called carnal sex against the order of nature. Now, these kind of provisions have been removed. But yes, we have not yet moved to that point of time where we will be giving legal status to same-sex marriage. That has not happened. But IPC 377 has been removed. And in India, we have also seen certain specific issues which have continued to prevail despite our shift towards urbanization and modernization. Dowry, it might have existed at some point of time. It might have had some reasoning at some point of time. But dowry has not gone down over a period of time. In fact, dowry might have increased in recent times. One of the reasons it is said that it might have increased is now dowry is linked with the educational qualification, employment opportunities, employment avenues of the groom. So if his education status is improving, his employment status is improving, the dowry is also increasing over a period of time. Consumerism might also be playing a role in increasing the demands for dowry. Child marriage, though child marriage has decreased over a period of time, but it is still prevalent. Different studies point out that around 1/3 of our girls, they get married before the age of 18. There is still prevalent some marriages which take place even before the age of 10. So child marriage is prevalent, and it is prevalent in certain parcels of the country, specifically in the areas of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, these areas. Polygamy, it does exist now also. Among Muslims, it is existing, but among Hindus and other communities also it exists. Though legally it is not allowed, but still it exists. And the problem here is, among Muslims, all the spouses, they have a legal status over there. But among other communities, they do not even have any legal recognition, all these spouses. So that exists. Hypergamy is prevalent, but the problem with hypergamy is dowry. There will be an increased demand for dowry because now the higher social status of the boy is traded with the demands for dowry. Another thing we have also observed as we are shifting towards modernization, urbanization, is there is increase in marital breakdowns. There is increase in divorces. They're becoming more individualistic, and it can reflect in the fact that marriages are breaking down. So these have been some changes that we have observed in the institution of marriage. Now, what are the factors which impact the divorce rates, marriage and the divorce rates? What factors could be impacting it? Now, different thinkers have studied it, and on the screen you can find out some of their findings. What do they say? Now, some of the studies point out that the divorce rates or the breakdown of the families, the breakdown of marriages, is also dependent on one's class position. They're finding out that in the middle classes, the professional classes, divorce rates are low, they're quite stable. But in the working classes, this can be higher. And they're saying that maybe it is unemployment which is the major reason here. People lose out on jobs and it can have an impact on the institution of marriage. Also, the kind of occupation you are in, that also decides the divorce rates. Some occupations are considered to be having more troubles, can have more divorce rates. For example, those who are working in the armed forces or those who are in the creative occupations, among them you will find more divorce rates. Now, whether before the marriage there was cohabitation, whether they had tried out living together before they entered into the relationship of marriage, institution of marriage, that also can have a bearing on the divorce rates. Now, Parsons and Fletcher, they talk about it. Now, if there has been cohabitation, there has been a relationship before marriage, the divorce rates are also high. So it is something counterintuitive. If you are already in love, if you have already known each other before you are entering into marriage, the divorce rate should have been low. But no, the divorce rates are high. And Parsons and Fletcher, they try to explain it. They say that when you know each other and when you're entering into the institution of marriage, your expectations are high. And when your expectations are high, it can be draining on the relationship. It can impact the relationship, which can again lead to higher divorce rates. So it is because of your expectations that divorce rates can be high when you have already tried out your relationship before marriage. Also, the divorce laws, they also have an impact. If the laws for divorce are quite strict, there's a lot of effort in that, there's a lot of cost in that, then divorce rates will be low. If divorce laws are quite easy, quite lenient, there's not much cost involved, in that case, the divorce rates can be high. So ease of divorce also has a bearing. In case there is some sort of social stigma associated with divorce or being single, in that case, divorce rates will also go down. If the marriage bond is considered to be sacrament, then the divorce rates will be less. If the marriage bonds are considered to be a matter of convenience, so in that case, the divorce rates will increase. So whether you are considering it sacred, sacrament, or whether you are considering it convenient, that will also have a bearing on the divorce rates. The age at which you enter into the institution of marriage, that also has a role to play. Sometimes people get married at a very young age. Maybe when they're just teenagers, they've crossed the legal age, maybe when they were at the age of 19. So at that point of time, most people can get married. Generally, these kind of marriages are there when there is an instance of teenage pregnancy. And in these kind of marriages, divorce rates can be high because you have not seen the world, you have not understood your own compatibility, and you have just got married only because there was a teenage pregnancy. So they are also high divorce rates. So lower the age at marriage, there is more prevalence of divorce rates. Parental background also has a role to play. If the parents had divorce, if you are brought up in a single parent family, in that scenario also, you are more open to the concept of divorce. So there also divorce rates can be more. Conflicts in a marriage, they do have a bearing. More the number of conflicts, divorce rates can be high. Feminist movements, they have also played a very important role. Feminist movement can lead to increase in divorce rates. Feminist movements leads to individualism. You are not adhering to those collectivistic norms. You are thinking about your own self. You don't really care what the society is going to think, what the family is going to think, that if you want to separate out. So feminist movements which focus on equality, which focus on individualism, can also lead to higher prevalence of divorce rates. Apart from that, there has also been a change in the attitude towards intimacy, love and sex over a period of time. And this thing has been pointed out by Anthony Giddens as well. In the initial period, during the agrarian stage, at that point of time, men and women, they had to struggle a lot. Physical labor was a necessity in the farms. So they did not have sufficient time for themselves. So marriage was more of a matter of convenience. Sexual activity, again, it was primarily utilitarian. You have to have kids, that's the reason. But over a period of time, there is romanticization. Sex and romance, they are now clubbed together. Different literature novels, they're all glorifying romance as well as sex. So there is this linkage. But in a postmodern society, again, there is a difference. There is plastic sexuality. Sex, childbirth, they are now dissociated. So again, we are moving in another direction now. In this postmodern phase, love is no longer seen as a one-time experience. Emotion, childbirth, all these things are delinked from one another. There is consumerism, there is plastic sexuality. So there is also a change in attitude and which also can lead towards higher divorce rates. So these are the factors which can impact the continuity of a marriage, which can impact divorce rates. Your class decides, or it can have a major bearing on the rate of divorce. Occupation can have a role. Whether cohabitation, living relationship was there before. What kind of laws you have. What does society feel about divorce. Whether marital bond is considered sacrament or whether it is just for convenience. At what age and the couple got married. What is the parental background of both the individuals who are part of the relationship. Whether they have conflicts. Also sometimes movements, things outside can also impact it. Apart from that, what has been the gradual attitude towards intimacy, love, sex. That also has a bearing. So these are the different factors which impact marriage and divorce rate. Now the last part, some thinkers, they also have a very critical perspective about marriage. For example, some feminist thinkers, they feel that it is an institution by which patriarchy is promoted. So family, marriage, they are all institutions of private patriarchy. There exists patriarchy in the public space, but there also exists patriarchy in the private space. It is an institution of patriarchy. Now, Tanya Evans, she says that women in a marriage, they are considered to be the property of their husband. In recent times also, you might have come across certain laws. In fact, recently scrapped a law which also considered the same thing, adultery laws. They also consider that women are a property of the husband. Now we have scrapped it. So different laws you will find this thing is prevalent. Apart from that, this institution of marriage has certain dysfunctional aspects. For example, under the garb of marriage, marital rapes can continue, there can be violence, there can be dowry. This marital rape is nothing but a derivative of this thing, that women are considered property of their husbands. So once you are getting married, the husband is assuming that she is her property. He has a right over her body. And this is something which leads to marital rape. The female is not ready for sexual activity, but husband is forcing it upon her. So women are considered property of their husband. And violence, dowry, marital rape, all these incidents keep on happening within marriage. So this is the critical perspective of some thinkers, not necessarily marriages, something which is harmonious. Now, some of the contemporary trends in family, marriage, kinship, we'll be seeing them at one place in the last subtopic. So when we'll be discussing that, please relate with these topics. So this brings us to the end of the first subtopic, family, household and marriage.